The Truth About Goblins. Chapter 42. The noodle place seemed unfamiliar without the throngs of people crowding over its tables. Looking at the surrounding shops, Kit saw the same story. The market just wasn't the same when everyone was asleep. It was kind of spooky. He shuffled his feet, waiting. He didn't have a watch with him, but he knew it was late, definitely past 6:30. 7 o'clock, at least. Had Saphira left already? He was just about to go home when she rounded the corner to meet him. "You're late," she said. "I know," he replied. "But I had to get you alone." "Why?" She took her place in front of him. "What is it you wanted to tell me?" Something was off. She looked different. He wasn't sure how, but there was a strange look in her eye that made him uneasy. More than ever, he needed to tell her. "It's about Timothy." "Timothy?" She lowered her voice. "What's wrong? Is he in trouble?" "Not exactly." He pulled out a black stone from his pocket, watching it turn purple in his hand. "Remember when I showed you this?" "Oh, this is your glowing rock, isn't it?" She reached for the stone. It changed to red the moment it touched her skin. "Have you found out what it is?" He nodded. "It's called hemanite. You can use it to find out who's goblin and who's human." "Really?" Her eyes widened in interest. "How can you tell?" He took the rock back, its light casting eerie shadows across his face. "Red and blue, human and goblin. A mix gives you something in between. But the more human you are, the closer to red it will be, and the more goblin." "Oh." Once again, she took the stone. "That's why it turns red for me." He nodded again. "I had it in my pocket when I was kidnapped. Grim must have thrown it on the ground with the rest of my things." "Well, at least it's no worse for the wear," she said, handing the stone back to him. "But I don't see how this relates to Timothy." He stuffed the rock back in his pocket. "Timothy was picking up some of my things when you guys found me. He gave the rock back to me after I stood up." She was confused. "I still don't understand. What are you trying to say?" He paused, hesitating. "There was a second, right when he picked up the stone. I saw it change color." Again, he went silent. When he spoke again, his voice was very quiet. "When Timothy touched the rock, it turned blue." She stared at him. "What?" He looked away. "What do you mean, the rock turned blue?" He met her gaze. "Timothy isn't human." And then her face went white. No, that's impossible. It's a mistake." "It's never been wrong before." "Well, maybe he doesn't know," she said. "Maybe he just has a little bit of goblin blood." "Saphira, you have to listen to me." He grabbed her hands. "I didn't say the rock turned purple. It was blue. Bright blue. Brighter than any blue I've ever seen." She looked down at her feet, dazed. What could it mean, if the rock is blue?" "It means he's a goblin," he said, trying to be patient. "And with the color I saw—" "It just doesn't make any sense." She shook her head and turned away. "There has to be an explanation of some sort. I'm sure he would have an answer if I asked." "Think about this," he said. "Either Timothy's got no clue, or he's been lying to you this whole time. And if we're completely honest, I just can't see how he wouldn't know." He bit his lip. "Talking to him might not be the best idea." "How can you even say that?" She couldn't look him in the eye. You have to understand something, Kit. We don't have any secrets between us. He frowned. You're not saying he doesn't know about... Her gaze dropped back to her feet. Ugh, Saphira! He took a deep breath, exasperated. You're in deep water. You better not tell him about this. Then what am I supposed to do? She said angrily. Does this change anything if I can't even talk to him? He sighed and scratched the back of his neck. Maybe you oughta... It might be a good idea to bring out that crystal, just to see if he's hiding something. Kit, no! She was sickened by the thought. Timothy is my friend. It would be indecent of me to even consider it. But what if he's lying to you? He grabbed her shoulders. Saphira, this could be serious. Can't you take a quick look, just to make sure nothing weird is going on? You don't understand. She shook off his grip. It's not like your crystal. It's not like looking through a window. When you experience another person's memories, you are living them for yourself. Whatever horrors, whatever suffering they have undergone in the past, you subject yourself to all of it when you enter their mind. She held her head. It's hard to know when to stop looking. Sometimes it's too much to handle. I may not know much about Timothy's past, but I know he's led a life of inconceivable grief. I've seen it, this look on his face. She shuddered. Life has been mercilessly unkind to him. I wouldn't change places with Timothy for the world. What about for his sake? His shoulders slumped. Would you do it for him? Her heart felt heavy. Her words came out weak. I would do anything for him. He sighed. You think of him an awful lot, don't you? Can't you try being selfish for a change? Kit. She stepped forward and embraced him. Thank you for worrying about me. I know you just want to help. She held him at arm's length. But rest easy, all right? If Timothy is keeping this from me, I'm sure it's for a good reason. I guess, he said, unconvinced. I just felt I had to tell you. I appreciate it, she said, heading back to the tea shop. Good night, Kit. He sighed again, defeated. Good night. And Kit? He stopped. Yeah? Please don't tell Annie about this, all right? He seemed reluctant, but he nodded soon after. I promise I won't. Good. She turned past the corner and disappeared. He stood still for a moment or two before turning around and starting back towards the apartment. More secrets, always secrets. How many secrets could one kid keep? Rounding the corner, he stopped. Annie! She stepped out of the narrow alley where she had been hiding. Yeah, it's me. He scowled. What the heck are you doing out here? I could ask you the same thing, she said, crossing her arms. His anger quickly turned to embarrassment. It's not what it looks like. Oh? She said, a frigid tone to her voice. And what exactly does it look like? Ugh, Annie. He put a hand to his face. I can explain. Okay, she said. Explain. I had to tell Saphira something. He paused. In private. She frowned. You came out here at 7 a.m. just to tell Saphira something? What did you have to tell her? Great. What was he supposed to do now? It's a secret. Yeah. She turned her back to him and started home. A secret. So I suppose you can't tell me, right? Annie. He ran after her. Listen, I know it looks bad, but Saphira asked me not to tell. Oh, come on. She rolled her eyes. You're still gonna deny it? I saw you guys all close up at the club the other night. You saying this isn't the same thing all over again? I told you it didn't work out, and it wasn't like that at all. She said nothing in reply. Keeping her gaze ahead, she ignored him and continued walking. He sullenly kept pace behind her. Fine, he thought. Not my fault you don't believe me. He glared at the back of her head. Not my fault you're jealous, you big baby. Not a word was said as they both walked back to the apartment. If Annie was upset or frustrated with him, she didn't care to say it. Although, if Kit had a choice at that moment, he would have taken yelling over the silence. It seemed like ages before they arrived back. Through the window they went, hardly making a sound. Annie stooped down and picked up her pajamas off the floor, losing no time in making her way back to her own room. Kit thought of trying to explain himself again, but he was too bitter to deal with her. Besides, what could he say? It was impossible for him to justify himself if he wanted to keep Saphira's secret. He was stuck. Whatever. It didn't matter. If Annie wanted to be sour, he didn't care. It wasn't like he had done anything wrong. In fact, he was actually trying to do something good for once, instead of being selfish. He groaned and flopped down on his bed. There were voices coming from his mother's room. What was going on? Again, he didn't have the energy to care. He pulled the sheets above his head and tried to forget about everything. Man, he thought, friends can be a real drag. Hi, I'm your narrator, Miranda Eastwood, also the author of The Truth About Goblins. If you liked this chapter, remember to add, follow, or subscribe to this channel so you can hear the next one. And if you didn't like this chapter, oh well, I can't really do anything about that. In any case, I just thought I'd let you know about my Patreon. You can check it out if you'd like to throw some support my way. It would mean a lot to me. Not to mention there's loads of extra exclusive content that I only post on Patreon. While I'm at it, I'll mention that The Truth About Goblins is now available as a complete audiobook, and you can get it wherever you get your audiobooks. Thanks for listening.